You're back. Okay. Two-factor authentication on OBS is sometimes really annoying. Oh boy. Abe, hello. Nice to see you. You're my consistent guy, man. It's awesome. Love having you here. Let me get up this week's stuff. I don't know, Abe, if you saw the One Piece Awards at all and stuff, but we did that a few days ago. It was pretty cool. Did some... Get over here. Window. Been a busy week, though. Had our pet dog, who I've had for about 10 years now. He's like 12 years old. Had to take him to like the vet in kind of not an emergency scenario, but an urgent scenario. He cut his paw, got him all fixed up. Oh, kids have gone back to preschool and stuff this week. Wife back working. Busy time. Fun though. How are you doing? Yeah, two-factor in OBS, but like through the when I connect it to my YouTube, my Google account and all that. So it's really Google's two-factor authentication. It just like makes me have to do it over and over again. And I use my phone as a webcam, so I have to like go find the Google tablet or whatever, not the Google tablet, the old ass iPad, and have it like confirm that it's me. Oh, given exams, nice. Yeah, no worries, no worries that you weren't able to catch it. You catch all this other stuff. Um, get signed into Viz. How are you doing though? How's your beginning of 2025 going? Crazy that we're already like almost 2 full weeks into it. What if I put this in my favorite? That would have been the smart thing to do. I did not ever put the One Piece chapters in my favorites yet. Silly. Yeah, I've been actually using it with StreamKey lately, but I don't get like the same chat like dock window, and so I was finding that a little bit annoying. I don't know. I need to sit down and really figure out a way for my streaming setup to be consistent. I have been slowly doing that, but it takes time, and time is pretty limited these days. And also working on, my focus is still like the YouTube videos. So yeah, the struggle is real. The struggle is very real. Okay. For somebody a channel just editing their video. I'm not sure. What does that part mean? I'm confused. Might need to say it in a slightly different way. Boop, boop, boop. 100% even 2025. Yeah, I mean, dude, it is a weird time. 2025 stuff just doesn't really feel like it's getting better. Outside of like really small spears, you can control to some degree some small spears in your life, like family and friends to a degree, but you can't really control what your friends do and how they respond to all these things. And then work is just like, you know, everywhere is bad, I think, pretty much. I used to do like IT and stuff back in the day until I had my kids. Used to work with kids for behavior support and all that kind of stuff. But like the only time I felt like we were doing well with the financial part of everything was when my wife and I were both working, and it was also like early COVID, so we were getting like extra like government money, and we also weren't going anywhere and spending any money. But nowadays, like if I like the amount of money that we make now, like if I told myself that amount of money 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, then we must be doing well. But like rent and groceries and electricity is so expensive. I don't know like how much these numbers mean to you, but our like heating bill in the United States and the place that we live is like, and during the winter is like $350, $400 a month. Crazy. And just even when I was maybe like 6 years younger, my heating bill was like $100 a month. Things are tough. On Discord with me, you can help. Are you asking to help with like my channel stuff, or you already do that with somebody else, someone's channel and their editor? I haven't even. The thing about editing the videos is, um, I love editing. I think it's like an art form, and I think it's a lot of fun. The time to do it is the struggle. Inflation, my friends. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, we're still good on the bills part too, but it's tough. We want to like save up and buy a house, which in the US, like I always feel like I should be getting closer, but I'm definitely not. It just gets more and more out of reach, it feels like. Yeah. But, I try to focus on, at this point, I just try to focus on setting my kids up too and making sure they have a good childhood. Oh, help for your OBS settings. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should talk about that sometime soon. That'd be dope. Let me get this open. I also need to make sure that I'm doing the right, do not need that. Monitor left. There we go. Now, I'm pretty sure we're on this chapter. Let me see what I wrote down. We are starting today at chapter 1067. Look, I did it successfully. So, personal news 2025 has been busy. Thank you for tuning in to the Big Dad broadcast. But what I've really been thinking about lately in terms of One Piece during this break from reading the early Egghead and then kind of going down a rabbit hole is that the ancient kingdom, it's a closed country, right? From what we've heard from Shaka so far, is that this country is hyper advanced, even more so than Egghead Island. And given that, they were like technologically gods compared to the rest of the world. If the rest of the world, the other 20 kingdoms and whoever else was around that wasn't part of those 20 kingdoms, had that same level of technology, they wouldn't need to team up as a group of 20 kingdoms against the one. And then also the current world of One Piece would be much closer to Egghead Island level of technology. My mom is calling me. Weird. Answer that. No, wasn't able to get a hold of my mom, but whatever. Hey, Colin. Um, hey, Colin. Colin's my brother. Colin, can you call our mom and ask her why she called me? The kids and Lauren are on their way to her house. But she was calling me and I'm in the middle of live streaming and wasn't able to answer. I just need to find out if there's a problem so that Lauren can turn around. All right. So the ancient kingdom, technologically advanced, how they maintain that like godlike, and remember they're said to be gods, and like the current celestial dragons, they weren't actual gods. They were just technically superior to the level that they appeared to be gods. They had, genetic modification. They had cloning. They had climate control. They had like laser and light weapons and stuff, robots. And all at the core of this is the endless energy, the mother flame. And I kind of skimmed through a few of these chapters that we're going to go over, looking to kind of get a little bit of a precursor for today. And some of the stuff's going to come back into play here. We find out about Vegapunk and that he's basically got the perfect devil fruit for the smartest person, the brain fruit, which allows him to store an endless amount of information. Well, that's funny that Lauren was actually listening to all that. Let's see. We get a little bit of information about how Punk Records is actually Vegapunk's brain, and that like they connect to it like it's like the internet. Oh, Lauren, my mom called. The kid's Nana called. She was trying to get some laundry detergent or something of ours because I didn't bring it because I'm bad. But whatever. It is what it is. And if everybody in the world of One Piece was able to connect to it, they would be able to like share all the information that Vegapunk has. Pretty important stuff. We find out that Vegapunk wasn't able to perfectly recreate the mythical Zoan, the fish fruit model Azure Dragon. He just got the color wrong, but to him, that's a big deal. Mm. Luffy asks him, "Did you build this robot?" And Vegapunk says, "This is the legendary Iron Giant that is said to have attacked Sacred Marijoa about 200 years ago." So the question about that for me is, what's in Marijoa that he was like attracted to, that he was trying to reach, even just automatically? Thank you for telling her to drive safe. Yeah, fortunately, she's a very safe driver. Can't say the rest for everybody else on the road, but that's kind of how you have to drive right now. 200 years ago. But we know that the Iron Giant is powered by, I mean, he says it here, it's powered by this energy source, the Mother Flame, which is connected to um, the sun god Nika. And yeah, maybe the giant straw hat, but my I was talking about this with another with Yhus in my Discord in the manga discussion channel. And we were talking about this, and I came up with the idea because Emu goes down and looks at that like frozen giant straw hat, and Emu's got a picture of Luffy in their hand, and I'm kind of thinking that Emu's like, "Isn't this the right hat? Didn't I get this guy? Um, like, why is it coming back?" And that's kind of connected to like the whole themes of One Piece, where like blood relations or like the literal treasure is not the important part. It's like what we have like in our heart, or like who our friends are and stuff like that. Things aren't inherited literally through genetics necessarily, especially important things like the will of D and stuff like that. They're inherited through um dreams, for example. And so maybe Emu wasn't understanding what the straw hat for Joy Boy and stuff represents, and was like, "Well, I got the hat, so Joy Boy done, I win." But instead, it's more like anybody can potentially wear the straw hat. Anybody can potentially become Joy Boy. And the most important connection to the Iron Giant is that it was confirmed to be built 900 years ago. Yeah. So Yhus and I in the Discord channel, we think that somebody else awakened the um the gum gum fruit, the human fruit model Nika. Um, and when the fruit is originally awakened during the Onigashima raid, the five elders say it hasn't been awakened for hundreds of years. Kind of conveniently lining up with 200 is technically hundreds. Is kind of like the idea. Trying to think if anything else could really make it make sense. Because I don't think they got the Mother Flame energy source like online besides that 200 years ago. That seems very unlikely. Nami points out here, I've been thinking about this part like crazy, trying to think of a strong connection. 200 years ago, that was the year when fishmen discrimination became a big issue. So, the robot was attacking Sacred Marijoa. Sacred Marijoa is directly above Fishman Island. At the same time, that was the same year that Fishman discrimination became a big issue. The inkling I have would be that, like, the person that awakened the devil fruit was a fishman, right? That seems like the most likely incident over the straw hat thing, because again, the straw hat doesn't really particularly matter, and why would he be particularly drawn to the straw hat itself? How would he even know where it is? But if you can hear the drums of liberation, if you can feel that energy from the sun, and if he was drawn to that, then it would make sense that he would go to Sacred Marijoa if there was like a fishman who was either down in Fishman Island or left Fishman Island and went up to Sacred Marijoa and was on their way to Sacred Marijoa themselves or something. What if a Vega clone had to sacrifice themselves to create the Mother Flame? A secret clone. Secret clone is an interesting idea. I mean, you could imagine that there'd be some type of prototypes or something. I think it's like possible, right? I just think we don't have enough evidence yet, and part of that could be due to Oda not having finding a good time to present it, which is like kind of possible during the current arc. But so far, I haven't seen like a ton of specific evidence for there being a seventh clone, right? I mean, I guess there is a seventh clone now that I think about it of Stella himself. So it'd be interesting what if he's used that clone for other things in the past. We know that he's used that clone to visit the Oharan research on Elbaf and stuff. But could he have used it for other things? I think it's possible. It's one of those things that we just have to kind of wait before we could really come up with like a concrete like answer for it, I think. Maybe Fishman prejudice is linked to Poseidon and Noah keeping them down. Fishmen also have the sun pirates, so that kind of makes sense. The sun and the straw hats is a big connection. How did Roger have it and why? Yeah. I've always been pretty interested in like how Roger came upon the straw hat. And then I also think the whole Poseidon connection down at Fishman Island and Noah, those are good like evidence to that. I don't remember if we get like a specific like cycle for the trait of Poseidon being inherited. But I feel like it's definitely enough that the 200 years thing could line up. One of the ways that we know the ancient kingdom was much more advanced than even Egghead is because Shaka right here says, I built the Vega Force 1 using the ancient robot Emmet as a guide. But there are aspects of it that even my scientific power is unable to recreate. It is hard to believe that this mechanical soldier was built 900 years ago. And we know that to a degree, the Vegapunks have captured this dynamic power source. But they haven't been able to fully express it in the same way that just Luffy's Nika form can express it. Shaka says, in the past, they had a power strong enough to rewrite everything we know about the world today. Nothing too crazy important here for what we're talking about, but just plot-wise, Vegapunk asks Luffy to take him off of Egghead. Feels like fate was at work bringing Luffy and the Straw Hats here. And we also have Cypher Pulse showing up to be an asshole. And then we get Kuma. He's starting to wake up and somehow know that he's needed somewhere else. Some invisible force is kind of pulling him towards Egghead Island. They say he's not supposed to have a will of his own anymore, but, clearly he does. Clearly there's something deeper at play than just the human mind and heart or whatever. What's wrong with you, Kuma? Where are you going? This is where our revolution really begins. Because this is the first time the Revolutionary Army is really attacking the Celestial Dragons. I feel like the robot was a lot like Chopper. That's a really cool connection, right? That basically what you're saying, right, is that Chopper is the same as Emmet in terms of Joy Boy's crew. He's the kind of non-human, intelligent, kind of childlike heart and stuff that it kind of parallels Luffy and Joy Boy's crews. I agree with that. I haven't thought about it too much, but it definitely makes a lot of sense. I like that. I think Oda knowingly keeps gaps in the story. One, for our theories and the things that we will never get answered, and two, when he does tell us, we will yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely think that Oda, one of the most impressive things about Oda's writing is his, what would I say? His patience as a writer to wait for the perfect time to give you the information. He's so good at that. And he's also amazing at ending his chapters in a powerful way that makes you want to read the next chapter. Now, if you're week to week, kind of boned because you have to wait. But nonetheless, that's why so many people like read the scans and read the spoilers, and they're just like looking for any drop of One Piece, because he really leads us to like just needing to know that next bit of information, which it often doesn't even start the next chapter exactly where he left off, but just a masterclass in kind of pacing in that way. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do with Emmet in the anime. Yeah, I feel like the robot went through the same emotional journey, learning to be themselves in a brand new world and gaining confidence in the same way. Yeah, that's really interesting because he'd have to be, theoretically, he'd have to be built. um, and I think people that were like clones and stuff kind of will have the same thing, to where maybe not to the extent, but that struggling with their identity and being alone, like Chopper was alone because he was the only reindeer that could speak and have human intelligence. But then the humans themselves saw him as a monster. And I'm sure people, like, assuming there's not like a whole bunch of Emmets running around, that he's like somewhat even of a rare case, then people would be scared of him, right? And then if he's accepted by Joy Boy just in a very similar way as Chopper, I think that's a very good connection. Yeah, they're the Frankenstein's monsters. That's good. I like that. Next chapter, 1068. Take a quick bite. A Genius's Dream. Cypherpool's getting ready to land. They're gonna like use the pawpaw fruit of Esper to land on the island quickly. And at the same time, kind of, that's actually really interesting. With Esper using the pawpaw fruit to land them on the island, Kuma using his pawpaw fruit to also launch himself towards the island. Joyboy be like, yeah, oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I could just imagine Joyboy. I could definitely imagine Joyboy meeting Emmett and immediately asking him to join the crew, only to like go through like a whole story arc and then asking him for reals. um. So, anyways, part of me is kind of wondering. This is super duper, like, not like a theory or anything, but just like a possible connection here to keep our eye on going forward with the Seraphim specifically. Is like, is Kuma understanding kind of what's going on Egghead Island unconsciously because Esper is also just arriving there? Like, is he like feeling and understanding that his powers were used to land on Egghead and so he takes off? It's a possibility, but then I'll have to try to keep in mind going forward. Vegapunk's dream, which lives on, is a world in which energy is abundant, available and free to everyone around the globe. Kind of conveniently just lining up with Luffy and himself. Like, if Luffy claims the One Piece and changes the world, like what is the whole point of the story, then Vegapunk's dream is certainly very likely to happen. And the purpose of this dream is to ultimately eliminate one of the greatest causes of war in the world. So the initial thought I have here is we went over the ancient kingdom before and how they had access to this energy source, and that's what ultimately led them to being viewed as gods in the world. That they were so advanced technologically that they were essentially gods, and the humans were more like insects, right? Kind of adding that parallel with how the five elders and the celestial dragons talk about humans. The current working theory, as I'm going through this information for the video, is that the power source that the ancient kingdom had was stolen from one of the other 20 kingdoms or something, like stolen from Elbaf, for example. And that power source was stolen and used to elevate themselves above everybody else. Vegapunks wants this power source available and free to everyone in the world, creating some level of like equality in terms of like access to this energy. The ancient kingdom was not like that. They were hoarding it, and ultimately that is what led to the war that Joy Boy participated in for whatever reason. The obvious reasoning being that Joy Boy leaves the ancient kingdom to have an adventure and explore the world, follows along more or less Luffy's journey, visits Alabasta, makes a connection with Nefertari D. Lily, visits Fishman Island, maybe visits Water 7 and has his has a boat built there, which ends up becoming Pluton or something. Ends up visiting Fishman Island, becomes friends with a mermaid who ends up being Poseidon, continues the adventure, making it to Wano, where these are the people that, make and carve the stones that are for the poneglyphs, and that is where Pluton is currently held. And ultimately, either from what Joy Boy saw in the ancient kingdom and saw in the rest of the world, decided to maybe not side with the 20 kingdoms so much, but is help his friends within the 20 kingdoms. And then Abe says, however, Emmett runs on the drums of liberation. Does he have another power source also? So I guess what I would say about that is that I see his power source as the drums of liberation also. But what's the source of the mother flame? Possibly also the drums of liberation or something similar. And so I think those, like the drums of liberation and the mother flame, are connected, and both of those act as a power source. We've seen on Egghead Island that the Vegapunks are basically implying that the mother flame is not perfected yet. Not only do they have a hard time recreating it and replicating it, it's not, they're not able to obviously turn it on and use the robot and stuff like that. They can't, and the most important part is they can't make it available to everybody. Very limited. So I think the Drums of Liberation and the Mother Flame are very strongly connected, and I think if anything, if there's an alternate power source for Emmet, then it's going to be something to do with those connections. Could it be that Kuma is still connected to the Egghead system and could have been monitoring the island? Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting point. Yeah, something like that could definitely be possible, even if his connection is just like through the Seraphim, because they say they share the same like bloodline elements or something. The ancient technology is going to be something so simple, but the knowledge has just been hidden. Yeah, I definitely agree. We just recently learned how to make Roman concrete, so I think that something as simple as seawater could be the answer. That'd be interesting. Let's keep that in mind. All right, let's get to the next page. Oh, well, oh, this is actually interesting real quick. Vegapunk says, just reach out and feel it. Energy is right here and there and all around us. The world is positively brimming with it. So Vegapunk is kind of implying here that the Mother Flame, whatever powers Emmet, is something that's just like this invisible force that's kind of around everybody all the time, and they just don't know how to access it and use it. So that's very interesting, and I think that matches a lot of what we're currently saying here in the back and forth with the chat. Yeah, sounds like Zoro back in Alabasta. Yeah. He was talking about how everything has its own vibration. Yep. How everything has like this little energy source. Yep. Kind of explains a little bit more. That kind of like lines up with what hockey is, too. The closer I get to the power source that moved this Marine soldier, the ancient energy that gave it strength. The closer I get to the power source. Yeah, so we know the drums of liberation are the power is the power source, or is connected very closely to the power source, that once the drums of liberation start, that the power source kind of turns on and is accessible. I also just love this part right here in the manga, in the bottom right. Vegapunk is just like yipping and yapping about like this energy source. He's talking so passionately as a scientist, and then boom, big ass explosion behind them, and Luffy and Jinbei are like, "What the hell?" And then Vegapunk's like, "So as you can see, I've dug a little deep into the past, and now the government's going to get rid of me, just like that, just like they got rid of O'Hara." He's just so silly. Also, what is voice of all things? Observation hockey or something else? Hmm. I mean, I definitely lean away from observation hockey, but I definitely think now that we're kind of bringing this up with everything else, that it's more of this this ancient energy, this power source. It's closer to that than anything else. The fact that Roger could like access it so easily and stuff too is very interesting. And while Roger did not have the Nika fruit, he definitely embodies like the energy and spirit of Joy Boy. So he himself is kind of close to that. But when I've seen Luffy use the voice of all things down in Fishman Island to like he can hear the Neptunians speak and stuff. I just don't. We know his observation hockey, at least purposefully, is like not on that level yet at all. But it's an interesting point. I mean, it definitely could be because we know that they can, kind of accidentally access forms of hockey before they actually know it. They're just getting ready to evacuate the island, and that's where we kind of get ready to start the whodunit. They retreat up into the Labo phase. Except Luffy's going to stay down here and start swapping hands with Lucci. Kaku ends up being the example of what happens if you just try to force yourself into the Labo phase. Poor guy. Man, in the Egghead Island arc, Atlas really took a beating over and over again. Pigeon guy. All right. Vegapunk was just talking about this power source and stuff, and Luffy's about to turn it on to some degree. We'll see what happens. Yeah, no, Atlas. Atlas took a beat down. And Luffy's ready to throw hands because Atlas gave them plenty of food to eat. The Admiral Sakazuki isn't really liking what's going on Egghead. Do they say that? We learned that Kizaru is on his way to Egghead Island also already. We're going to get some information about devil fruits here, and I think devil fruits are obviously connected to the ancient kingdom. Like it's pretty likely that they created devil fruits to some degree. Like they were at least doing stuff similar to devil fruits to themselves with or without devil fruits. Shaka says it's usually the case that awakened Zoan powers absorb and control the user's personality. This is like the awakened Zoan users that we saw during Impel Down, where they're just kind of like lose their mind, basically. But people like Lucci, people like Luffy, they didn't have the same thing going on. Stella Vegapunk refers to Luffy. You know, he knows from the bounty poster, has a warrior in white appeared, and he really wants to get over and see this because he kind of has at least a potential idea of what it means. So there's this theory too of how the Nika fruit specifically exists in this connection to the Buccaneers and how the Buccaneers are special. So the Buccaneers are specifically one of the most repressed races that we see in One Piece. Unlike fishmen, besides Kuma that we know of, the Buccaneers have been entirely erased from this world. And so the crime that the Buccaneers did in the theory right now is what makes Buccaneers special is that they held on to this belief of Nika longer than any of the other groups. That Nika's been kind of suppressed for a long time, but the Buccaneers managed to keep Nika and this devil fruit alive through their simply hoping that he exists, believing that he could exist. And that's what brought the fruit to life, and that Nika can live again in this current era. And the biggest question of all is, what was Shanks doing with the Nika fruit? Shanks knows some things that nobody knows. Yeah, and I think, what Shanks at least specifically knows is what Roger told Shanks after Roger saw the One Piece on Laugh Tale, knew he couldn't do anything, and then in the face of that, he tells Shanks, who stayed behind with Buggy, like, something. Maybe it's that you guys got to get it done. Maybe they had some more conversations after that, but the conversations specifically withheld from the readers. You could also imagine that Shanks did his own digging around after this and started learning a little bit about what the Void Sentry is and what the world government is really truly afraid of coming to light. And then Shanks obviously has a very close connection to Elbaf, who they worship Nika and the Sun God currently more than any other group. And unfortunately for the world government, they'd have a much tougher time erasing Elbaf than the Buccaneers. None of the Straw Hats have ever heard of Nika before, because it's been erased from the historical record, is what Vegapunk says. But as long as people wish for him, his existence will never truly disappear. And that's where my connection with the Buccaneers come back. Maybe the Buccaneers made the Nika fruit come into existence even 200 years ago. We don't really know the full timeline of when they started getting erased, and we don't really know exactly how the Buccaneers play in with the Ancient Kingdom, but I feel pretty strongly that the Buccaneers wished for Nika to exist, for Nika to free them, for Nika to bring them joy and happiness, and that's what bore the fruit. And whether that happened back during the Void Century or 200 years ago is still up in the air. I'm like, what was Shanks doing trying to get the devil fruit? I mean, it's hard to know if he was just trying to purely keep it out of the world government's hands, or if he was trying to um, give it to a specific person. Puma's mom had a similar hairstyle to Gerd. That's interesting. I'll definitely keep an eye on that when we get to it here in a few weeks on these live analysis. Wasn't Buggy right there when Roger told him? If so, Buggy knows what he said, but probably thinks it's all useless info because he doesn't know what to do with it. That's really interesting. I mean, Buggy's not drawn in the panel, but you're right that he would have been right there. And unless he like whispered it in his ear, then he would have heard. Whatever Buggy did here, though, and like whatever Buggy felt about Shanks before us, he really thought that Shanks was going to be this person that Roger was essentially like waiting for. And Buggy's disappointment that Shanks wasn't that guy, that Shanks felt like he had a different role. And maybe Shanks thought he was going to be the one to do that until Luffy ate the devil fruit, but then obviously brings up the question, why didn't he just eat it immediately? Right? Definitely interesting. I think as people argue that Roger's crew did nothing after knowing the truth, but I think Roger's crew are directly or indirectly helping Luffy or the Nika fruit, as that fruit does carry a will. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And my current like theory of why Roger and them didn't do anything is probably because they knew that it wouldn't make a difference, right? That they knew Nika or Joy Boy was going to return, and that nothing was going to stop the changes that are approaching. And as we see with like Dragon right now, like it can really, telling everybody in the world this stuff could really cause a lot more pain and suffering until it happens potentially. So it's very sensitive information. But I think that whatever it was, they felt probably very strongly that to learn this information, you kind of have to go on the adventure yourself. And um, believing in freedom so strongly, um, they didn't want to add their own interpretation to what they learned. And so there's that kind of like implication that Joy Boy's story, the laugh tale, and if you've seen my other videos, it's not clear cut, right? It's a story of tragedy, friendship, romance for adventure. And as I've kind of implied through a lot of this, the conflict with the ancient kingdom is not simple. As it currently stands, it appears to me that Joy Boy was not like really on one of the two sides. That Joy Boy chose to leave the ancient kingdom, becoming the first pirate, meaning that Joy Boy was not really Joy Boy in a land of limitless possibilities, of a place where it seems like you can have any of your dreams come true. Joy Boy was like, my dream can't be realized here. I need to go out and see the world. And, you know, in my mind, it's very obvious that the ancient kingdom was a closed country. So leaving the country would be illegal, especially for you're just regular old citizens, which Joy Boy almost surely was in my mind. And that illegal act of leaving the country is what made him a pirate. I can't really see Joy Boy like wanting to specifically come back and like have a war with the ancient kingdom, but I can see Joy Boy align themselves with the friends that he's made on his adventures, who are, some of these people are leaders of these 20 kingdoms. Could devil fruits be... Could devil fruits be simpler to tulpa? What's tulpa? Yo, what's good? What's good? It's your boy Aldi Zoni. Do you want to do a top 30 with me and others? Um, Aldi Zoni, I'm not sure how sure the difficulty is of sending me a direct message, but you could join the Discord and message me, or you can send me an email to bigdadvariety@gmail.com with those details, and I'll see if I'm able to participate in all that kind of stuff. One Piece is pain piece in disguise. However, Joy Boy solves that pain. Thoughts? Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. With Well, with a lot of my videos, I talk about the kind of dichotomy, the parallel between laughter and joy, and pain and crying, and how specifically a lot of the D members are doing a big ass smile when they die. And this goes for D members who are not explicitly stated to be D members. That'd be like Otohime, Bellamere, Tom from Water 7, Kozuki Odin, Rocinante. All these people are smiling at death, which to me signifies that they were D members, and that something D members are passing on like a dream or a will to somebody else, and they're smiling because they know that their dream isn't dead. We see the whole laughter thing a lot with Jaguar D. Saul and Robin, where he explicitly teaches her to laugh when she's feeling sad, because when you laugh, you're happy. So it stands to reason that if you're in pain, you're feeling sad, you're completely destroyed, that if you laugh, you can start to feel better. And if you start to feel better, you can still access that will to live. That's kind of how I see the whole like pain piece. So when you think about Joy Boy, what has he done? He says it right here. Indeed, the foolish and laughable warrior of liberation who brings smiles to all people, also known as Nika the Sun God, meaning that for slaves, for regular people, maybe even the enemies, he was making them laugh. He was kind of taking their pain when he was fighting or existing or whatever. All right, Aldizoni, I put my like YouTube email in the chat. Colin, if you're still around, can you drop the Discord invite in the chat too when you get a chance? I can probably actually do it real quick. Oh, it's on streamer mode. Okay. Where are we at in the chat? If it's a giant vat of sake, they may have had to wait for it to be ready. Beans that Bink's sake is so prominent, and all the people who seem to know the truth drink like a fish. Maybe close. Tulpa are like Slender Man and the Sandman. If a lot of people believe in them, they become real. They start out as a fiction and become real with belief. Okay, so what did you say about Tulpa up here? Could devil fruits be simple, similar or simpler to Tulpa? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think devil fruits are very similar to Tulpa with how you described it here in the chat. Tulpa, like again, just for me saying it more clearly because I was kind of like mumbling. Tulpa are like Slender Man or the Sandman. They're this myth or urban legend that can, theoretically become real just because people believe in it. Okay. Let's see. All things are brought into this world with hope. Even the devil fruits. Every devil fruit is a possibility for human evolution that someone desired. If only I could be like this. If only I could be like that. All of those powers represent the many branches of the future of humanity. But that unnatural status is loathed by the sea, the mother of nature. A fitting punishment for its sin, those with powers, exists in different dimensions, dreamed up by someone else before them. This is only my theory. Isn't it just such a fascinating world? And wow. Yeah, a lot to unpack here. The mother of nature is the sea. When we think of like human existence in the in terms of science, now I'm not a scientist, but from what I remember knowing and learning, is that the very first signs of life ever in the world where they came from water. You need water for life. Um, and so life was born from the sea. And it sounds like Oda's making that connection here in One Piece true too. Now, instead of letting natural evolution play out, there became laws against nature, the devil fruits, the people that hoped they could be a certain way, and while they don't get their own dream accomplished, um, their dream or their hope is manifested into a fruit that gives anybody who eats it that ability. And by going against nature, by going against like the normal human evolution, the sea rejects them and weakens them. Awesome, Abe. I'm glad you joined the Discord too. I was like wondering if you were in there yet, but forgot to ask a while back. Yeah, Abe, you should take a look at the manga discussion. I got into it with Yhus for a while a couple days ago, and it's kind of long, but I think it's if you're into reading like kind of um theory crafting analysis stuff about the ancient kingdom, there's a lot going on in there. Yeah, our first life form is in the shallows now, but would have been deeper before. They looked like fossilized stepping stones. You can still go see them today. That's awesome. Hmm. Part of what I've always kind of wondered too is how the 20 Kingdoms beat the Ancient Kingdom, right? They had the team up, number one. It seems to me like they had three ancient weapons. They had Pluton, Poseidon, Uranus. But obviously, the Ancient Kingdom had a lot of their own ancient weapons. And I think the Ancient Kingdom stole a good amount of their technology and stuff too. So maybe they couldn't like fully access it. But to challenge essentially gods, did they make a deal with the devil? Does the devil actually exist in this world? I think the only way the devil, like the only way we've seen a god actually exist in One Piece is by people before wishing or dreaming that Nika exists. Right? So to me, the only way that a devil could exist, the only obvious way is if somebody wished the devil existed. Then that fruit would be born. And if a sea devil fruit or a devil fruit was born and somebody ate that, what would be their powers? I do think that Nika comes long before Joy Boy, so I think the devil fruits already existed. And I only think that because Nika is said to exist in only the oldest texts, kind of implying that, to me at least, that probably older than the ancient kingdom itself. Mhm. All right, Abe, I gave you the permissions. Don't know if it works immediately or not. Let's see here. So, like, if somebody wished the sea devil or the devil to exist, the kind of fucked up side of that, right, is that they would only want that to exist in my mind to seek revenge, to seek just pure power to overthrow somebody else. And so the obvious thought of who that is Emu, right? And there's this implied like Joy Boy and Lily were betrayed. There's this like implication of that, right? And we also know that people's wills can be affected by the devil fruits, especially Zoan. And I think a sea devil or a devil fruit would be a mythical Zoan. So there's starting to come this question if Emu was once more of an ally, but eating the devil fruit, which they didn't necessarily know what it was going to be, obviously, changed their will. And the plan of having the 20 kingdoms become like this oligarchy where they don't have a single like monarch falls apart because Emu's will has been affected and that Emu is no longer on board with the plan of the oligarchy and not having something like a monarchy, like with what maybe the ancient kingdom had, or and stuff like that. And the emu's new will, affected by this devil fruit, manipulated them to betray Joy Boy, betray Lily, betray the other allies of the 20 kingdoms, or maybe like um, influence the other allies of the 20 kingdom to betray Joy Boy, and to ultimately try to take the power and stuff that the ancient kingdom took. They're trying to basically replace the ancient kingdom and become the new gods of this world. And I think that lines up really well with what the celestial dragons and stuff are currently, with what they kind of act like. Um, this is getting interesting. This is getting very interesting. So Emu and the 20 kingdoms decide to try to take the ancient kingdom technology, the power source, everything they're able to do. They want that for themselves. But the reason why Joy Boy and Lily and Poseidon are participating in this in the first place is to return these technologies to the places that they were stolen from, which creates a really nice parallel with the Alabasta arc, where Luffy's fighting Crocodile down in the crypt and or the tomb, and Luffy's like, "You still haven't given it back, the kingdom." Um, so I think there's a really strong parallel right there, and I think that the isolationist nature of the ancient kingdom and Joy Boy's participation in the conflict really lines up if you understand that the ancient kingdom stole these power sources, stole this technology, and then hoarded it in their own closed country for power. And Joy Boy's participation in the war was purely to return those to where they're rightfully be, whether that's to everybody in the world, or to a place like Elbaf, or to a place like Wano. A little bit undetermined at the moment. But Luffy definitely did not, or Luffy, Joy Boy definitely did not want like this power to be isolated just to a single person or a small group of people, because that goes against the ideals of freedom. Have I heard of Mayan mythology? Everything with the multiple sun gods and people's races rings very true with that. Hmm. The I mean, I know like a little bit of Mayan mythology. I definitely could not like pretend to be like an expert or anything. I know about the multiple sun gods, um, and stuff like that. And I think that Oda use some of like the ideas of the Mayan civilization and the Mayan mythology specifically for um, Skypiea and Shandora and stuff like that. So I definitely think it's something that's been in his mind. But there's also just like the myth of like a sun god exists in a lot of cultures. And I think the Mayan the Mayan culture also like is pretty interesting because they were, for their era and for like what they had access to, they were very like advanced in their own specific ways. It'd be interesting to look into it and see some parallels. But I will say though, with my analysis of One Piece in general, like secondary sources such as like Mayan mythology, um, Japanese mythology, etc. I see those as secondary to what to what just exists within One Piece itself. Because I see Oda also deviate from those stories and stuff a lot, even if he pulls from those myths frequently. And so ultimately, I just find like the evidence within the text of One Piece itself to be just like stronger in drawing conclusions. And like, I don't really do, from my like videos, I don't do a lot of specific theories yet, because my analysis content is basically supposed to be like the backbone of theories. That my analysis content is basically evidence for making your own theories, or like whichever direction I want to go with that in the future as well. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But I do need to look into that stuff more too. I'm trying to like expand the analysis a little bit too, without also like keeping myself in check and not getting kind of out of pocket. That's just kind of like my own standards that I hold myself to, and I like listening to what other people find with that stuff. But that's kind of like specifically a text-based analysis of One Piece is kind of my own little niche within like the One Piece kind of theory crafting community and stuff, that I'm trying to really hold that lane down. I agree. I see the similarities and I love all the connections. It's like he's weaving together existing concepts along with his own. Oh, and One Piece is completely its own story, though. Yeah, yeah. It's like it's really amazing. The I really struggle to think of another story that has this level of world building so like delicately like woven into it. And it's like amazing that it's so delicately woven in there when One Piece is, it's very silly, obviously. It's very silly and wild and energetic, and somehow he still has um that like discipline to keep everything tied together in a way that you can just like feel it when you read it. It's like one of those things that's really difficult to explain to somebody that hasn't experienced One Piece. But yeah. Yeah, I specifically want to reread the Odyssey to kind of, not to like necessarily draw specific connections to One Piece, but just to kind of, I just want to see like similarities. And it's also a great story. It is it's a difficult text to read though. I read it in high school and in college, or not all of it in college though. I think I only read the Iliad portion. All right, guys, we finally made it to another page. Nothing too crazy going on here. We get to see S Hawk, S Snake, S Shark. Get to see Sentomaru again, who's a goofy ass looking dude, but we love him. Learn a little bit more about the authority chips and stuff like that. I love the Lucci and Luffy fight in the anime. They did so well with that fight. That fight had like just so much like energy and stuff to it. And obviously it's spectacular in the manga as well, but um, you know, if anime has one advantage over manga, it's the spectacle of fights, for sure. Oh, Sentomaru gets a little diced up right there in front of everybody. Sad day for him. Go to the next chapter. 1070. Oh my gosh, Vegapunk is such a goofy ass looking dude right here. So we got, who do we got here? We got Vegapunk in the center, Caesar on the left, Queen to the left of Caesar, Judge on the right, Stussy on the right. The One Piece is possibly the best story ever existed in entertainment, especially for our lifetime. Yeah, I mean, I do a One Piece YouTube channel and a live stream. I make basically no money from any of this. I've definitely put a lot more money in than I've gotten out. And it's all just because I just love the story. And I don't know if you guys know my background with just life in general, but I studied literature in college and stuff. And so when I was reading One Piece for the first time, like all the symbolism, all the themes, and like the level of character development and the like emotional catharsis of One Piece, it really blew my mind. It really did. Um, I love like kind of deconstructing narratives and stuff, and One Piece was like, I was like, how would I ever do this? And so I've kind of made my channel around deconstructing One Piece into like smaller bits to appreciate it from new angles. And that's been really fun and very challenging. I mean, like, just during this Egghead live analysis has really been kind of, I've been seeing a lot of new things about the Ancient Kingdom, right? And I've even made a video that kind of touched on the Ancient Kingdom like years ago. I think it was more than 2 years ago at this point. It's called like is Dragon like the true hero of One Piece? And it's really about Dragon, but Dragon is obviously connected to O'Hara, and so and O'Hara's whole thing was kind of exposing the existence of this ancient kingdom. And so there's a little bit of analysis in that I don't necessarily really stand by today, but that was before I went more of like the kind of hardcore text-based analysis approach with my content. And yeah, just on this live reading of Egghead Island, I've been really blown away with things that I've been able to break down about the ancient kingdom, about this technology that they had, and about the connections to the Void Century. And I haven't really heard about a lot of these ideas in the One Piece like content creator machine very much. Um, and I think that's partially because there's a little bit of a reaction of going like, you're talking about the next chapter, and people don't really connect some of these big ideas if they're kind of spread out over 10, 20, 30 chapters, or if they're spread out over hundreds of chapters, which is not uncommon in One Piece. It's a little bit less likely to at least see content creators talking about it or thinking about it or spending the time breaking it down. And I've been really trying to spend a lot of time actually breaking down One Piece rather than editing and writing, because like sometimes I feel like if I slow down and try to look at things from a new angle, and then I go back into the lab, it's going to end up being a lot better for myself and for the people that take time out of their day to hear what I have to say about One Piece and hear what our community has to say about One Piece. I think the entire spectacle is better, but anime is often lacking in those big manga panels during fights. Yeah, I definitely agree that the manga panels can really make like fights blow very beautifully, and you also get to kind of linger on the panels at your own pace. Yeah, the galaxy impact in the anime was awesome.
I don't think my brother has seen that yet. Could be wrong. I think Oda said that he made it a point to make better big hit panels specifically, and it shows. Yeah, yeah. And I really loved the panel too of Galaxy Impact and stuff in the manga. It was definitely one of the better ones. I think one of my favorite panels from that stretch of the One Piece manga where and I think it's done better than the anime. And it's just this little moment where Garp takes the hit for Kobe, where he gets in front of that sword, and the kind of like motion leading up to that panel was done very well. And I don't think like paneling structure and even fights is necessarily Oda's strength as a mangaka, but he is very good. Obviously, still he's very very good at it. Um, but his strength, you know, his writing is like incredible for a mangaka, and his like character designs and his like kind of environmental designs just on a whole nother level than what you normally see around. Luffy versus Hody Jones. It's like hardly a fight. All right, Luffy's gonna turn on the jets and stuff, whipping poor Lucci around. We see that Vegapunk is able to recreate devil fruits like the swim fruit, even though the actual fruit user still exists, which is pretty interesting. Only Zoan. I've been trying to wonder what's up with the difference of being able to recreate devil fruit abilities, but only Zoan type devil fruits can be produced artificially. Virtually all devil fruits of Zoan fruits, even the special ones, can probably be recreated. The special ones being mythological ones with vast amounts of money and time, though I haven't confirmed if they can awaken. Like what do we think when we just hear the awaken? Like when I think of devil fruits right now, I think of like the dreams or like the soul of the person who manifested the devil fruit into existence kind of exists within the fruit. And then because they're sharing a body with somebody else, if they can awaken a Zoan fruit especially can take over the will of the user. So like that person inside the fruit awakens and they end up like maybe mindlessly controlling their body. And then if you have a strong enough will and stuff, then the devil fruit can awaken, but you can like still hold on to your mind and you can just kind of access that um like a stronger version of it basically. Awaken is a very interesting word. A snake is too cute. Problem with people is nowadays they don't see the whole picture and hence skip Skype arc. That is crazy, yeah. That always blows my mind when somebody says that, which is like one of the most important arcs. the anime pacing's not good, but it sets up a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, like part of me is also like if you're watching the anime, then like you kind of have to just accept that the pacing's not gonna like always be very good. And if you have a problem with it, don't skip the arc. Just start reading the manga. The manga is like so accessible nowadays. When I was like a kid or a lot younger, manga felt very unaccessible. Do you think Loss can switch with someone with with the devil's? Oh, do you think Law can switch someone with the devils in the fruit? That's interesting. That's crazy. Hmm. Yeah, maybe they're called. Maybe devil fruits are called devils because, um, like somebody who creates a devil fruit can be referred to as a devil because they're going against nature and like they're basically because they're like dreaming and stuff. That's interesting. That's a possibility. It is interesting to think like we know that Law's fruit has an ability called the immortality operation, but like mechanically, what does that immortality operation look like? Um, they've said that you have to be like a very skilled user with that fruit to do the operation. So then, like, what do you do that actually makes them immortal? And if a soul exists in the fruit, it's like immortalized within the fruit. So if you switch them, then they can just keep going, I guess. I don't know. And it kind of implies that Emu has had the immortality operation done to them a long time ago. So maybe the original Emu is inside the person is inside the sea devil, right? This the like Emu ate a devil fruit, which happened to be the devil fruit or the sea devil fruit, which affected their will because it would be a mythological Zoan, and mythological Zoans or Zoans have a will of their own, which we've heard from the five elders. We've heard it from uh, Vegapunk a chapter or two ago. And then, so that affected will caused them to betray Joy Boy, Lily, maybe even the Ancient Kingdom, or not the Ancient Kingdom, the 20 Kingdoms, and had somebody perform the immortality operation and switched out the King Emu from the kingdom that they come from, King Emu Nerona or something like that. And now the soul that was within the devil fruit that was um, given Emu the abilities now is kind of taken their place in the original Emu, who was an ally of Lily and Joy Boy, kind of slumbers inside them, still has a will of their own, so is still like pathologically obsessed with Joy Boy and Lily to some degree, but we don't really know why. Like if they love them or they just see them as a friend or an ally or a crewmate or family, we don't really know. But this definitely kind of falls in the line of that. I don't have enough information to say any of that with any level of conclusion, make any conclusions. But it's definitely a very interesting possibility that we are kind of even able to bring up. And like, there's not really, while there's not a ton of evidence to, we're using like inferences, right, to come up with this idea. We're extrapolating. But there's also not a lot of evidence to just outright contradict it, which is also important. Because if Oda wrote something in here that outright contradicts it, I would just throw the idea in the trash. It's just not, like, in terms of like what's available in the manga, it just wouldn't be possible. Law. Wait, can Law reverse the immortality operation? That's very interesting. Can Law reverse it and swap them out? Definitely possible. I would love if I really hope that Law makes it back into the story and is able to team up with Luffy again. If everything has a vibration, a voice, then maybe it can be manipulated. Emu seems like they maybe did the same thing Blackbeard is doing. I definitely have thought that for quite a long time, that could be like a pretty strong connection with Blackbeard, that they know that Emu exists and that they're kind of following the same path, and that's why he's searching out specific devil fruit and all this kind of stuff. Law reversing the immortality operation would be crazy. Crazy. And I think, the cost of the immortality operation is the fruit user's life. And we already saw in Dressrosa that how Law kind of sees Luffy. And I think we all agree that Law couldn't really fight on the same ground as Luffy anymore. But I also think that Law would definitely die for Luffy by doing the immortality operation, if it meant Luffy's victory, if it meant Luffy's dream could exist, or Law's dream could keep going. I'll hear out any ideas, because even if it's wrong, it may be a spark for inspiration on the right track. Yeah, definitely. Especially in the world of One Piece, where, man, so many possibilities. And if you're afraid to explore those possibilities, probably going to miss it. I'm really interested to see what we're going to be talking about One Piece once it's done. Because I'm still going to be here doing these streams. We'll start back at chapter 1. Live analysis starting from chapter 1 and go through the whole series. And we'll see how that's going to be so fun. I've thought that about, because when you do YouTube and stuff, a lot of people choose a niche, and you don't necessarily just make whatever, right? And I obviously started YouTube to talk about One Piece. And part of it's what you see on YouTube is once a story or a game has been around a while and it's over, eventually the content for that or whatever dies as well. One Piece, I think, is just going to go on forever online, basically. I see it only really getting bigger after it finishes, for a while at least. So I'm excited to see what we're talking about in those days too. I mean, that's a ways off, but as I think anybody old enough here knows how fast 5 years can go by. It's crazy. How long have you guys been caught up on One Piece, by the way? Anyways, we were at the end of page 6 here too, and then we're going to page 7. I tried everything I could think of with Logias, but they proved too difficult. And as it appears right now, it kind of appears that Logias just can't even awaken, period. For Paramethea types, which are basically superpowers, I found that as long as you have the user's bloodline elements, you can synthesize and administer a special kind of blood to confer those powers to others. And so we're kind of getting the idea here that there's three different sources of these devil fruits. Zoan devil fruits appear to have like something maybe like a soul or like a will or a dream like within the devil fruit that specifically like affects the person that ate the fruit and maybe can be brought out to exist on its own. I tried everything I could think of Logias, but they proved too difficult. And so Logias are different than that. There's not like a person existing within the Logia we don't have any evidence of that. Or a specific will in it. Paramethias are different as well, where it's like a genetic lineage type of thing. But Paramethias can awaken, right? We've seen quite a few. Specifically off the top of my head, Doflamingo and Law are like the two that come to my head right away. The one thing I'm looking forward to after One Piece ends is the reflective insight we get from Oda. I hope he releases a Devil Fruit encyclopedia and more world-based books. I got caught up a few months ago and immediately made a TikTok just to yap about it. That's awesome. Man, I remember that. I remember when I got caught up in the first few months of that and stuff. It's a fun time. I don't think I've read a lot of for One Piece extra stuff that's like also like canonical. There are these color walks, which are his art books, where he does the double spread cover pages that Shonen Jump asks him to do, and then you can buy like the color walks, which will cover like East Blue through Skypiea and Water 7 through Paramount War and Fishman Island through Wano. Those are like the ones I own. And in each of those, there's a lot of authors' comments on the colored art that he does. There's a lot of like prototypes in there. And what's really interesting is each of the color walks have like 3 or 4 interviews where Oda is actually interviewing kind of a fellow artist. They're often not mangakas, but they are like character designers. They're people that have art in museums and stuff. And he's just talking to them about art and storytelling and stuff like that. And they've all at least like read some of One Piece and seen his art for the interviews. And the overwhelming thing I feel from it is that Oda will never be able to stop. Like once he's finished One Piece, he's not gonna be able to stop drawing. So it would be cool if we got some encyclopedia or like more world building explicit books. My concern with some of that stuff though, like what are they called? The Vivercard books that are published and stuff, those are kind of clearly like a lot of people take that information as canonical, but it's actually basically just Shueisha having somebody else put together this information and Oda kind of just approves it, doesn't worry too much about specifically what's in it clearly because there's contradictions from within the manga constantly. So stuff like that, I'm not near as excited for, to be honest. But if Oda has more of a direct hand in creating it and curating it, then that would be awesome. A lot of people think that Oda is like working hand in hand with the Viver cards, and I'm like, there's no shot. This dude is so busy making this manga every single week. It's insane. He also talks in those interviews about how making these chapters, the drawing part, like the actual like mechanical drawing of the panels is like the shortest part for him. He's a fast artist, but coming up with like thinking of exactly how to present the drawings, like he views One Piece in his head and how he comes up with the story as kind of like a movie, right? And for his panels, he's trying to think of that like single frame in the movie that captures the feeling of what he's writing and presenting and exploring. And he talks about how that is like the most time consuming part. The writing part of One Piece is fairly time consuming as well, but he's kind of already outlined a lot of that. My favorite arc is Impelled Down. My second favorite arc is it's Water 7 if you combine Annie's Lobby, but if you don't combine Annie's Lobby, then it's probably Egghead. Thanks for the question, Banjo. Yeah, the color walks are really cool. You can get them on sale sometimes online, at least here in the US. I've been collecting them over 2 years and have 3 of them, you know. Like, there's no rush, I guess. Do I have my list ready? Yeah, I'm a huge Bon Clay guy. My type of guy. Do I have my top 30 list ready? Is that top 30 characters? Is that my top 30 strongest? What's the top 30? I don't have anything ready for what it's bingo card. I do have a predictions bingo card. I'll post it in the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, you can scroll up a ways, and I dropped the Discord chat in there. You can copy it again. I think. And I'll post my 2025 predictions bingo card in there. Yeah, I don't have that ready at all, but I mean, I can whip one out for you later. You know, I'm streaming right now, so it'd be hard to get it done right now, but I could work on it a bit later and stuff. I made one with my wife just for fun for our kind of like personal channel a while back. I don't know if it was top 30. Top 8 complex One Piece characters, like not power, but in terms of like writing and stuff. I don't know if I'd say like complex. I'd just say like my personal feelings towards them, where I felt like a connection with them and just kind of love them. Rocinante is my favorite. Whitebeard is my second favorite, followed by Luffy, then Kuma, then Kozuki Oden, Queen Otohime, Nami, who after that? I think I'll go Sanji. Sanji's been a character I loved a lot too. Law's really high up there. I love Law. He's probably like top 12-ish. Yeah, I said Whitebeard was number 2. The Seraphim represents the highest echelon of science conceivable in all the history of the sea. So I guess what Vegapunk is saying here that what makes the Seraphim special is how they're kind of like a blend of all these special traits and devil fruit abilities. Definitely interesting. They are the strongest form of humanity. It's also interesting that he doesn't look particularly happy or proud when he's talking about that. Let's see here. Gosh, this punch where he like punches through him. Oh, that looks so painful. I love it. And I love this part too, where Luffy is bending this kind of like pipe back, and then he like just creates some goggles out of his Nika hair and clouds or whatever. Just for the style points. So good. Yeah, I hope King comes back to see his reaction to Seraphim. Did they show where King was during Vegapunk's announcement? I can't remember if he's in Impel Down or not, or if he's held somewhere else, or if they just don't show it, period. I know they show him briefly when they're talking about, when Vegapunk's talking about the ancient kingdom and who existed during those times, etc. Luffy, gotta say, dripped up. Yeah, yeah. He definitely added some style to that hit for sure. Uh, 32 seconds. That's fast. Okay. Fight over for the most part. They're able to get up to the Labo phase. They're going to release the Seraphim and all this kind of stuff's coming up. Vegapunk says, so given those circumstances, it must be fate that brought an Emperor's crew here. We've heard fate be brought up so many times here and stuff. And it's like just interesting seeing the smartest man in the world, this man of science who's achieved so much scientifically, bringing up fate, right? It's almost like a contradiction because scientists believe in what can be proven and stuff. They don't believe in, typically, they don't believe in like the intangible, unobservable stuff such as fate. But this is somebody who's read the Void Century history. They've read what happened during that conflict. They have a big picture of why the world is the way it is. And so whatever's tied to that, right, is fate. He learned that fate is real. So it is an observable, it is a fact for him. And the idea of fate in One Piece is also really interesting because we hear a lot about how Joy Boy and Roger are like waiting for somebody, and there's a strong implication that it's at a specific time, and that Roger was too early, right? Very interesting. There's also the idea of Fate 2 with like the prophecy of Luffy destroying Fishman Island. And so I guess the big question is who set forth like the momentum of Fate? Whose fate is this exactly? And like how is it even just like happening? It's a big question. Hard to even think what could potentially do that. I personally like really love the the clothes of One Piece, you know, the style. And like as an artist, like Oda's ability to keep all these character designs and draw all of them individually, like in the second part of Naruto, for example, almost every character is wearing the same shinobi outfit. Um, because it's much easier to draw that on in the timeline of creating a manga, a weekly manga. And like Oda, he might not be quite on JoJo Bizarre Adventure level when it comes to style and stuff, but he's pretty up there. I also love like how the coats, how they never put their arms through the coats. It looks so damn cool in manga. It'd be so uncomfortable in real life. All right, I'll check that out after this. Aldizoni. Again, connection between fate and dreams. Yep. Connection between fate and dreams. Very interesting. Ah, fate and dreams. Those are big concepts. Big concepts. And they how they like connect in One Piece is so interesting. Because they almost like in terms of like the real world, fate and dreams, they're like nearly opposites. They're not what I would call super similar concepts, but in One Piece it's presented a lot differently. Oh yeah, I'm a huge JoJo Bizarre Adventure fan. Huge. Huge. It's for me in terms of like manga, it's One Piece, Berserk, JoJo's. And I actually watched the JoJo's anime of parts 1 through 6. And those are amazing. If you haven't seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, especially if you watch the One Piece anime, like a One Piece anime is paced it's very old school pace where it's like one chapter per one episode of anime basically. But JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is they're cranking out like 4, 5, 6 chapters per one episode of anime. It's paced amazing. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is actually longer than One Piece. That's a fun fact. Literally longer. Page count on volume number, it's just longer. Straight up. Have you read Wanted? Those are supposed to be the stories that inspired One Piece, and the one about the God feels like it may be linked to what One Piece is. Yeah, I've read Wanted. Wanted was cool. What's your favorite One Piece movie? Like Film Z. You like Film Z? My favorite One Piece movie is Strong World. Second favorite. Oh boy, second favorite. Either gold or film red, and then I'd probably say film Z. What is that one called? There's like a One Piece Stampede. I didn't really like Stampede very much. I mean, it's fine, obviously, but not something I really desired to revisit or think too hard about. All right, this will probably be our last chapter for this. See if we find anything else too crazy. Ooh, we're seeing Kuma. Oh, Kuma. So crazy that he just smacks into the red line. That would, not that he feels it necessarily, but that would hurt. Gotta love Oda's color drawings. Interesting color palette and stuff with Brooke's hair. Oh man, yeah. When I caught up on JoJo's, the second part was already out, thankfully. That would have been crazy to have to wait for that. Yeah. JoJo's amazing. I I think personally like JoJo's like battles too. Like the power battles, that's some of my favorite fights and stuff like that. Like the kind of like the problem or like the puzzle that's presented with the powers, and then how they like overcome that by using their powers, and how they kind of like creatively come up with a solution. I love that so much in JoJo. I have a JoJo's art book down here too. Show you. All right. Let's see. And my wife got me this for Christmas. Stuff, and it's just a pretty simple book. Let me find a page. And like all of it is drawn like that. And there's some really, really cool color illustration in there. All right, and here's where they really start laying on kind of like the insults to Kuma. He is a slave of the celestial dragons and no longer possesses human will. His current programming directive is unknown. And what we know about One Piece is that slaves, like the people that are slaves in One Piece, they're treated as if they're property, right? And that, but the reality is that a person cannot become property. And so that's like, to me, that's like probably the biggest crime of the celestial dragons as a group of people. Like chattel slavery is, in our history, is pretty much the pinnacle of greed and evil that humanity has ever had. And that when the Western world, you know, found groups of people around the world and found their resources and stole their resources and stole their lives and stole their land, stole their existence, stole their dreams. They turned them into possessions, ultimately to give themselves more money slash power. And it's the same in One Piece. Do, 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 do. There. Shaka says here that like their ultimate goal is to ensure that Stella escapes. That they are satellites and they will sacrifice themselves if it's for Stella's safety. And you know, we all kind of know how that turns out in the end. Um And, you know, Stella's kind of adorable here and make sure that all the satellites, all 7 of the Vegapunks, are included in the escape plan. Again, we all know how that turns out, but it's wholesome nonetheless. We get Bonnie chasing after get Stella because she's kind of finally woken up from having bugs on her a long time ago. It's kind of silly, but kind of conveniently missed Luffy's fight against Lucci, saving that for a more important time. And Kaku heads over to destroy the Straw Hat ship, runs into our boy Zoro, who's taking a nap. Goofy guy. I love how he like kind of like uses his thumb and kind of flicks sword out of the thing. Oh, kid, the Buster. Stella has such a cool design. Oh wait, we're up here a little. Is Uta a canon character from film Red? I saw her in the manga. That's a good question. She is. There's like a chapter like 0 or something that came with the people that saw the premiere of Film Red. I don't know if I wouldn't personally consider that fully canon, but it's like in there a little bit, right? Sorry, I missed your message earlier. Oh my gosh, the JoJo music, by the way. I don't know why this chat wasn't updated when I was looking at it last. The JoJo music is so good. I love it all. Rocinante is the only good guy in the Celestial Dragons. So are the parents. Well, there's also Saint Moisgard, I think. I think that's who it was. The guy from Fishman Island in the flashback, who then during the Reverie actually defended Shirahoshi and stuff. Like, he's a good guy. You know, I think what you should take away from the Celestial Dragons is that they are regular humans. They're regular humans that have, and like all humans and fishmen and stuff, they all have the capacity for evil, but they also have the capacity for good. And they, you know, the celestial dragons, they live in a isolated, basically a closed country, right? People aren't allowed to enter it without special permission. And for that, they grow with a very skewed view of the world. Even if they leave the red line, they're surrounded by Cypherpol agents. They're surrounded by Navy vice admirals, etc. So they're getting a kind of curated version of the world in that way, and they can still just like use their power to exploit people or hurt people with no consequences. Um, but anyways, the way I see that Oda shows the celestial dragons are that they are like a force of evil and stuff overall, but they're not like inherently evil. They've been kind of raised that way and are following that path, and they do have to basically like face justice at some point. But however, whatever that looks like, I'm curious how Oda um, shows their consequences. Some of the main ways are to give back what they've stolen and to live a life that builds up the people of the world rather than breaking them down. That's like the way I can see Oda going it on the long term. The weird thing is why Emu needs the celestial dragons. Yes, that is interesting. My guess mainly about that is that he doesn't, or Emu doesn't give a shit about the celestial dragons, and that they kind of are just kind of like purely a front or a mirage for how the world works. But yeah, there are still other questions of why Emu needs the celestial dragons. I think Oda said she's canon, but nothing that happens in film is canon. Yeah, that sounds about right. Um, yeah, I could definitely see Uta being canon, but I also just have no idea why they would come into the story. Could the celestial dragons be like Horcruxes from Harry Potter? Um, that's interesting. Kind of like if they were like sacrifices or something. Maybe, maybe. Interesting point. I feel like I'm hoping we'll learn more about the nature of celestial dragons as we get into the as we get into like the conflict that's happening at the Reverie with the Revolutionary Army and stuff like that, or not at the Reverie, but at Sacred Marijoa. Shanks thinks that Uda is right after Wano, so there has to be a connection there. Items. Shanks thinks that Uda right after. Shanks thinks of Uda right after Wano. Is that in like the chapters like 1050 to 1060 range? That's interesting. I should go back and look at some of those. I can't remember Uda actually ever like appearing in the manga or him saying her name, but maybe he's like just thinking of like Windmill Village in general. I could see something. Yeah, you can let me know the chapter or whatever that you see it on. I'll go take a look after this. Why is that fish so huge? Why is it so huge? Just because it's outside the land of Elbaf. That's funny. It's probably just like a regular ass fish. What island in the world can possibly make us hesitate? Well, I'm fairly sure this island is the home of the giant Elbaf. Exciting times. Yeah, you really can't see hardly anything in that shadows under the clouds. And then we see the baddie Vice Admiral Dahl in the Navy headquarters base G14. That's where Garp and a bunch of the Sword members are hanging out at the moment. And Garp's like, we're going to go get Kobe. And the other Sword guys are pretty stoked on that. And that leads to like one of the better action sequences of One Piece. I'm excited to get to that. All right, guys, let a few final questions rip and stuff, or whatever you want to say, rip. And besides that, I'll be back on next week around the same time in the morning, depending on what the situation is with my kids, whether they're here going wild or if they're at grandparents. If they're here being wild, I'll probably start a little bit earlier, like 8 o'clock on the Western U.S. time, or 9:30 or so if they're at grandma, so I can get a little bit of sleeping in, because rare to sleep in as a parent of 2 babies. Crazy. But I appreciate everybody that's been here and stuff. It's been a really fun stream. I think we had a fun conversation. I definitely enjoyed talking about it. And if you haven't seen it, I did like a little One Piece manga awards a few days ago. That's in the One Piece channel under the live tab. The VOD is still there and stuff if you want to check any of that stuff out. I am currently working on a video of the Ancient Kingdom, and a lot about kind of what we've been learning here and kind of like my own inferences and stuff like that. Gonna have a video soon of just analyzing every single panel that Blackbeard is in, from the, from where he first comes in the series to currently in the manga. And then after that is a little bit up in the air, but a couple ideas I have is just making a massive, like, everything we know about the lore of One Piece type of video. That'd be a long one. Yeah, that's what we got going on. Page 17, chapter 1050. Take a look at that real quick. What was that again? 1056. Chapter list. That not work. And 56. Page 1055. No worries. Did I click the wrong one? No, I got it. And you said page 17? Okay. She's the 2 slices in the top left of page 17. The page 17, I think, is on the top. So you're talking about page 16, actually. I see what you mean. It's pretty interesting. So he thinks of Luffy, thinks of Odin and Odin's kids. And then basically you're saying these like hair loops right here, that's Uta. Seems like it to me. I mean, I don't really have an argument. I mean, it's not, obviously it's a silhouette, so it's a little bit like, but leading into Film Red makes sense. Want to reveal the character for Film Red. Yeah, he thinks of all the kids. That's interesting. He's thinking of the new era. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that that's Uda. That's a cool find. I haven't really, noticed that before. I like that. All right, guys, that's going to be the end of the stream. Thank you, Tangerine's Media, for all the fun stuff. Thank you, Abe as normal, Banjo, Colin, Aldi Zoni. I don't. He just came in here and was like, "I need to do the strongest characters in One Piece." Swear, Aldi Zoni, do you have your list ready? That's wild. Not sure I'm gonna be able to help that guy. All right, bye.